In this video, you'll see how to add and subtract with decimals. So let's just consider a number with whole numbers that we want to subtract, right? We want to always be thinking about place value when we're adding and subtracting. All right, so if I set this up 672 minus 431, 6 in the hundreds place, 7 in the tens, 2 in the ones, minus 431. And when I subtract here, 2 minus 1 is 1, 7 minus 3, 4, 6 minus 4, 2. I get a difference of 241. Now, the reason I want you to think about place value is because often when we're working with decimals, one of the biggest mistakes people make when they add and subtract is they just don't line up by place value. So the best thing to think about to help you do that is you just line up the decimal places. So if I have 34 and 56 hundredths, this is 34 and, so I'm going to put my decimal point here, 56 hundredths. But then I want to line up my decimal places, so I have 3 and 875 thousandths. So it's going to be 3 in the ones place. See how my decimals line up here? And 875 thousandths. I'm going to add these two together. I'm going to add a 0 here just as a placeholder when I'm adding. So 0 plus 5 is 5. 6 and 7 is 13. I'm going to carry my 1. 5 plus 8 is 13. Plus 1 is 14. Bring down my decimal point and carry my 1. 1 and 4 is 5. Plus 3 is 8. And bring down my 3. So I get 38 and 435 thousandths. So when I add or subtract decimals, we can estimate first, line up the decimals, and then use zeros as placeholders. So let's see a sample here. I have 5 and 6 hundredths minus 1 and 339 thousandths. So when I think about this problem, if I'm estimating it, I'm just thinking about, well, what's 5 minus 1? And I know my answer should be around 4. So when I set this up, I'm going to have 5.06, and then I'm going to be very careful and line up my decimal points, minus 1.339. You see my top number has 2 decimal places, my bottom has 3. I want to put a 0 here as a placeholder because that's going to remind me that I need to borrow. I can't just drop the 9 down when I'm subtracting. So to subtract, borrow from the 6, and 10 minus 9 is 1, 5 minus 3 is 2. I need to borrow again. 5 becomes a 4. 10 minus 3 is 7. Bring down my decimal point. 4 minus 1, 3. 3 and 721 thousandths. Alright, and here are a few problems for you to practice on your own. First, I have 456 and 8 tenths plus 33 and 45 hundredths. If I estimate this, I'd say this is about 460 plus 30. So my answer should be around 490. So now I want to solve this. 456 and 8 tenths plus 33 and 45 hundredths. I'm going to line up my decimal points so that all my place values line up together. Add my 0 here, and then just add column by column. 0 plus 5 is 5. 8 and 4 is 12. And carry my 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. Plus 3 is 10. Carry 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Plus 3 is 9. I get 490 and 25 hundredths, which is pretty close to my estimate. 77 minus 45. When I estimate, I might think of this as just what's 80 minus 45. And 80 minus 45 is 35. So I'm going to solve this. 77. I don't see a decimal point there, but if I don't see it, it means it's right after the ones place. Minus 45 and 2 tenths. Bring my 0 up there so I remember to borrow. Take 1 from the 7. 10 minus 2 is 8. Bring down my decimal. 6 minus 5 is 1. 7 minus 4 is 3. So I get 31 and 8 tenths, close enough to my estimate of 35. And last, I have 23 and 56 hundredths minus 7 and 272 thousandths. So I might think of this as what's 24 minus 7. So I want my answer to be around 17. All right, let's set up my problem here and line up my decimal points. 23 and 56 hundredths minus 7 and 272 thousandths. Add a 0 here, so I remember to borrow. And 10 minus 2 is 8. 5 minus 7, I need to borrow again. 15 minus 7 is 8. 4 minus 2 is 2. Bring down my decimal point. Borrow again. 13 minus 7 is 6. Bring down my 1. I get 16 and 288 thousandths, close to my estimate of 17. And that's how we add and subtract with decimals.